necessarily buy myself a lot of things, but I have gotten myself a fair amount of games over the years. First for Steam on my laptop, and then for the Switch when Abbey and I got a Switch a few years ago. And while I could certainly make a video about any number of those games, the game that I want to talk about today is A Hat in Time. Hat in Time and I have a, let's say, interesting relationship. I'd only gotten Hat in Time for my computer because I was interested in playing it, and from what I found online, a lot of people preferred it on the computer over the Switch. But my computer couldn't really handle it. The animation was choppy and the cutscenes didn't really work. When I got a new computer, I thought that it would work better. But I was wrong. If anything, it worked worse, with the game barely working before the whole thing crashed. Interestingly, another game that didn't really work on my old computer works perfectly on my new computer, so I don't know what it is about Hat in Time that it just doesn't want to work on any computer that I try it on. So I decided to buy it for the Switch, and I am very glad that I did because I thoroughly enjoyed this game. The basic premise is you play as Hat Kid, a space-traveling child with magical hats who is simply trying to get home. After getting accosted by someone from Mafia Town, Hat Kid's ship loses all of its timepieces, its power source, causing it to crash onto the planet. She must then make her way through the various locations on the planet to collect enough timepieces to go home. This game has a lot of positives. First and foremost, I love the art style. I'm always a fan of adorable things, and this game is adorable. One of the levels, Subcon Forest, is a spooky forest. And don't get me wrong, it is spooky. It's just also adorable. Even the main villain of this location is adorable. I mean, look at him. He's wearing a male cap. A male cap! The only exception to this rule is Queen Vanessa's Manor, one of the acts in Subcon Forest. For some reference, here are the other loading screens for the other acts in this chapter. Some level of spookiness, but still kind of overall adorable. Here is the screen for Queen Vanessa's Manor. Terrifying. And that is honestly the least terrifying part of this level. Well done, game. The gameplay is simple to learn and easy to understand. I love the mechanics of the various hats that you can make throughout the game. Since it's a big part of the title of the game, it's good that they put a lot of thought into the various different hats and what they can do. This game has a lot of characters since each chapter has its own main villain, and each one is unique and interesting. That's not always an easy thing to do when you have multiple villains, but this game does it remarkably well. The only characters who are the same are the various mooks throughout the level, because that's what mooks are. And even in that case, even though the mooks are similar to each other, they are still very different from the mooks from other chapters. And very briefly, I didn't mention this while I was writing the script, but I also do really enjoy the character that you're playing as. Hat Kid is a perfect blend of responsible and childish. You can tell that she's responsible enough to be in charge of this ship completely by herself, but she's also still a child. If you stand still too long, she does stick her tongue out at you, and also she sticks her tongue out at villains who are actively threatening her. She's a fun character, which is good considering you're playing as her throughout the entire game. All the level designs are impressive and fun to explore. Special shout out goes to the Nyakusa Metro, which is a DLC. First of all, this is what a DLC should be, something that's not necessary to the plot itself, but still a fun place to explore. Secondly, I just love the design of this place, with the various cat subway trains that you have to hitch a ride onto, and the open world aspect of it. To talk about what I think is the ultimate positive of this game, we need to start talking about the negatives. While most of the level designs are fantastic, there are some that are questionable. The ship level is particularly bad, with some rooms being incredibly difficult to get to, there being more twists and turns than seems entirely necessary, and an entire room that seems designed to kill you. This is annoying enough when you're just walking around the ship in the first act. But in the second act, you then have to somehow navigate the ship while completing various tasks in a very short amount of time. There's an arrow that supposedly is helpful and points to where you need to go next, but it's inconsistent at best and flat out misleading at worst, sometimes taking me in a complete circle as I follow it. I have never finished this level, and honestly probably never will unless they go back and fix how difficult it is, which probably isn't going to happen because the version that is out is an already fixed version from what it used to be. But to cut to the worst day of playing for me, we have to go back to the second chapter, the Battle of the Birds. In this chapter, you have to help two directors, who happen to be birds, as are everyone in this chapter, make movies in an attempt to win the annual Bird Award. For the most part, I like this chapter, and even find that the areas are fun to explore. But then we get to the second movie these two make, where they add things to the level that are more frustrating than fun. The conductor, an owl who shoots on a train that's actively moving and only makes westerns, decides to place a bomb on his train to up the stakes, which means that you then have to go through the train on a time limit. And if there's one thing you should know about me in relation to games, it's that I hate time limits. DJ Grooves, a penguin that shoots on the moon and makes very dance and appearance-centric films, decides to throw in a parade of owls that follow you around. This doesn't sound too bad, but the problem is they constantly follow you, and if they ever catch up to you, they cause you damage. So you have to constantly keep moving or risk getting hurt, which means that I couldn't take a moment to consider my next move, which I don't like. And also you have to keep jumping along the roofs because there's a crowd of birds on the ground, and if you hit them, you also take damage. Fast forward to the final act of this chapter. After announcing a winner, HackKid is sent back to the studio in an attempt to unlock a conspiracy. This doesn't start out bad, as it's actually fun to explore this area that you explored in the first act, now completely abandoned. The problem is that it takes way too long to get to the final boss battle. There are 3 areas to explore, and maybe I just missed something, but it doesn't seem like it's very obvious where you're supposed to go. I got lost and ended up in the same place multiple times, so by the time I actually got to the final boss battle, I was already done. It's way too much build-up to go into the final boss battle, and then you have to actually fight the final boss battle. The boss battle itself is also pretty long, and it doesn't have any checkpoints, so if you die, you have to go all the way back to the beginning of the battle. As if all that wasn't bad enough, the boss battle then throws in the 2 things that I hated about the previous 2 levels. So at one point, a parade of owls follows you around, meaning you not only have to dodge the regular boss battle attacks, but you also have to keep moving in this not very big space and avoid the parade owls, and at one point, a bomb gets attached to you, which means that you have a time limit that you now have to worry about, as well as avoiding the boss battle attacks. I was so infuriated by this point that I couldn't enjoy any of this. Something I didn't mention when I was talking about positives is that this game is genuinely funny. There's a moment in the boss battle after the bomb gets strapped to you where the rival, whoever didn't win the overall competition, says that they have a diffuser and you need to make your way over to them so that they can defuse the bomb. And the diffuser is literally just a giant pair of scissors. This is hilarious. Like, this is objectively hilarious, but I couldn't enjoy it because I was just so done. When I finally beat this battle, I didn't feel anything. Not even relief. This was the most frustration that I had ever felt at a game. So, how can this lead to the ultimate positive? Despite how angry I was at the game and how done I was with it that evening, the next day, I still wanted to keep playing. I have gotten upset at games before. I'm currently in the middle of Hollow Knight, and there's a boss battle that I have gotten upset with, and it's now been well over a week, and I still haven't gotten back to it, and I'm not really feeling compelled to. But I really wanted to jump back into playing Hat in Time, even with how annoying and frustrating that level was. I'm not going to act like this game is perfect. Obviously it's not. Some of the level designs are needlessly complicated. The last battle in the 2nd chapter is needlessly long and frustrating, and while I didn't mention it in the negatives, the camera doesn't always cooperate with you, making it unnecessarily difficult to see where you're going. But if you can create a game that can annoy me that much, and still make me want to keep playing because I'm still enjoying myself, you're doing something right. So I do highly recommend this game, even with these frustrations. Just be prepared for them when they come up. So with all that being said, to my friends and fellow VEDSies, I will see all of you tomorrow.
Bye.